Hello, everyone, and welcome to the office hour. The first office hour of the week, despite it being Tuesday. We're going to get started here in just a moment. I'm just getting situated, so just bear with me for a second. Okay, so we're going to get started now. The first thing I want to address is I shared during the last office hour that I may not be able to make it to office hours on Monday this week, and that I would update the video links accordingly. There is maybe some confusion about what that meant. I apologize for not being more clear, but for those of you who are here, you've obviously figured it out. Simply, I just changed the links so that they are still corresponding with oh, did I not change the links? I definitely thought I changed the links. Somehow, that didn't work correctly. Okay, so I'll change the links now. I simply thought that I had changed them correctly, and I apologize that I apparently messed that up. So let's see here. Okay, that's interesting. What I see here does not match what I have, which means, let's see. just trying to update it again. I had a very poor internet connection where I was over the weekend. Here we go. So this is now fixed. We're here on Tuesday. It says office hour 25. We're all good to go. So again, I apologize. Essentially, all I did was I moved the Monday office hour to Friday, and then renumbered the links accordingly. So sorry for the confusion and the misstep. Like I said, I had a very poor internet connection, so I was not able to, first of all, fix the Jupyter Hub when it crashed this weekend, and secondly, and I didn't know about it because I couldn't access my email. And I also, apparently, once I fixed the Jupyter Hub, was still unable to update this list. So my apologies. The first thing I want to do is I've opened up a bunch of these tabs. I thought I had updated the video links tab to correctly reflect the numbering and schedule, but due to a poor internet connection, this update didn't go through. The video links are now updated, and you should simply use the ones appearing according to the schedule. I'm going to mark that as correct and close this. There's also a lot of questions on here about the hub not working. Obviously, it's working now. So I'm just going to go ahead and close these. A lot of them are duplicates of each other. So this is also a duplicate. And I'll just be closing these ones that are about the server, just because there's a lot of them and I don't want them to bubble back up and take up space on the message board. I will make a note to notify everyone that the server's back up by email. And also, we will extend an extra weekend. We will give you an extra weekend since the server was down all weekend. So I'll send out an email later today announcing that news. So someone is asking, they haven't started the course. What is the probability they will complete the course by the deadline? In truth, it would be very difficult to complete all the coursework by the deadline at this point, unless you already have a strong background in Python, like a very strong background in Python. Um, even devoting 5 hours every day without a strong existing background in Python, it will probably be very difficult to catch up and complete the course assignments by the deadline. However, it is still worthwhile to try because you can always apply again for the next cohort and you will be better prepared based on your experiences in this cohort. In fact, you can even save your work from the mini projects from this cohort and use that work to get a head start next time. So anyone who's starting late, I encourage you to just proceed and work as normal. It's very unlikely you'll finish by the end of the course if you're starting now. But since you can take the course again, that work isn't wasted. Okay, so that catches us up, I guess, on all the hello. Yeah, so I didn't mention, of course, I usually mention at the beginning of all the office hours, but if you have any questions to share with me in the live chat, please do so. I'll now be moving on to kind of more content questions on the message board now that the technical issue questions are all sort of cleaned up. And there's a lot of them since, as I mentioned, I did not have reliable internet access this weekend. So I've definitely racked up quite a few new questions over the weekend. I don't expect that I will be getting to all of these today. Let's see. Okay, this is an old question that I thought I had edited this title. I suppose not. So we'll say VC number 5, civ function returning non-prime numbers. So that's a short introduction for a title, and we'll just copy what had previously been a title, which is like a good description of the problem, into the body of the question. Find next. Let's see first. So this is good advice. I'm going to step away from this one. It caught my eye because it has super long name, but I'm going to step away from it just because this is quite old. So I suspect probably it's not relevant anymore, that students maybe fix their problem and turn my attention to questions asked more recently. type error must be string, not point. Okay, yeah, this is a good succinct answer with some examples. These operations should return points. When I add points together, I should get back points, not strings. I don't know exactly why they were getting this type error, but this is true. And then we would expect the repr method to handle creating string representations of those points. So rather than returning strings here, we would return points. And if we wanted to, we wanted them to behave as strings, or if we wanted to, see what their representation as strings would be, we would simply evaluate the output. And the reason, actually, I do know why this is getting here is we in the grader add up a bunch of points, and so if adding returns a string, when we go to add the next point, there's no definition given for adding a string to a point. So Python doesn't know how to do that and raises this type error. Data loading. Why do I get the same mean for all the data? This is a bit of a mess. So I've never seen describe called in this way, and I'm not really sure what it would do. But why don't we just try running their code and see what happens? So they read in the scripts. And what they were trying to do is like PD data frame describe scripts NIC, for instance. Okay. There we go. And trying to do this also with, say, act cost, right? Okay, so I get different means, so I don't really know what their problem is here. I run the code you've written here. I get different means in the outputs A, B, C, and D. Can you add more detail to your question, clarifying what you mean by getting the same mean? This is more of a comment than an answer, really. Yeah, I'm perfectly fine. I just was traveling with some friends and didn't have access to the internet all weekend. And I had the bad luck that when I went away and had no internet access, that the server crashed. So that was just a bad coincidence. Um, when we want to calculate a max or min, uh, sorting our data is unnecessarily slow and can overcomplicate our solution. Recall that sorted as well as max and min in bare Python accept a key argument in which we can specify how we want the maximum, minimum calculated with respect to multi-part data. For example, a list equals A0, B0, A1. If we want to get the I'll just swap these element with the smallest number or highest number, make these 10 both, and the alphabetically first letter, we could do max a list key equals lambda item 1. We would do a minus here, or no, actually, sorry, item 1, and then I suppose something like minus int, or what could we do here? I had to think a little bit and try and experiment. Let's see. Well, one thing we could definitely do is a min, actually, with the negative number amount. So if we take negative number and positive letter, this will select the minimum based on the negative numerical value. In other words, the maximal numerical value. And secondly, the minimum alphabetical string. Pandas max also has a key argument, I'm pretty sure, but maybe not. We could apply something like this to our data frame, or come up with a similar idea using pandas max min methods. Let's see. So they group this by postcode, and then for each postcode group, they're applying this function. So this will be like a data frame that consists of a single group. They group them by BNF name. They sum something, let's say items, sort the index, so they're sorting by BNF name. Then they sort by items. This looks like it would probably work. Method looks like it would probably work, but could be dramatically simplified. For example, we could just simply group by both postal code and BNF name, and then calculate the item sums. Group by let's see. Yes, then you could sort and then group again and take the max. I don't know that. I don't think sorting. Again, I don't think sorting is necessary. But this revision would be a little bit more straightforward. This is office hour 25, which it says in the video description. And also, I updated the video links, so this says office hour 25 here as well. So Thursday was office hour 24. So the next office hour that happened should be office hour 25, which is today. Question 3 is the simplest to answer. We do not share solutions to the mini projects. These mini projects take a lot of effort to create, and also we refine them each time we teach a cohort based on student feedback. It would take too much time to constantly rewrite or write new mini projects. And we would lose the benefit of accumulated experience in teaching or helping in guiding students through them if we change them each time. Since students may repeat the course and students coming to the course for the first time will what can I say here? What am I trying to say here? To prevent cheating, basically. Cheating due to share in future cohorts, we do not share solutions. you would like feedback on the style of a solution, you are more than welcome to post a question about particular issues you feel could perhaps be improved. Okay, so they start with 973 rows. Each one corresponds with a prescription, presumably. And since they deduplicated their practices, they should not be picking up duplicates here. Is that true? Well, it's simple enough to check. Scripts, shape, 973,000. Then they group by postcode and BNF name, and they do a sum. So here they're summing up all these items, right? So some of these are going to have the same number of groups. Or sorry, some of these groups are going to have multiple prescriptions in them. So we would expect the output of this to have less rows. Percentage is an aggregation of join. Therefore, we would expect it to have less rows. We can reason through this as follows. We group joined by postal code, and BNF name. Multiple prescriptions, i.e. multiple rows in joined, will belong to some of these groups contain multiple prescriptions. When we perform a sum on the groups, we are summing the numerical columns of these rows. So we return one result, the sum, for each group. It so happens that out of our 973,000 subscriptions, they got divided into 579,000 groups based on their postal codes and BNF names. Another way to calculate this would be as follows. First, compute the item totals for each postal code BNF name group. Then and store it in a variable. Then divide and it's essentially what we have here. Like the way I would calculate this is very similar to what you have done. But I would assign, use an intermediate variable for increased clarity. So here I would have item totals would just be this. And then I could say item totals percentage is equal to item totals divided by, here I should be able to just do item totals group by postcode sum. I believe this should work. I'm going to do just a little mock of this by saying if I group by practice and DNF name, select out my items and do a sum. So this would be a good analogy for our item totals. So here I'm using the practice code instead of the postal code because I don't want to deal with the postal code, just to test that this works the way I expect it does. Yep. So here we see those percentages. Pandas is pretty smart about aligning things by index, even in the presence of multi-index indices. Yeah, so it is important that you're sensitive to case, or rather insensitive to case for this question. And I suspect that's where they're encountering a problem. So when you're doing, and that's like good advice anytime we're doing pattern matching on strings. If you're trying to look for some particular string, often the case of the substring or pattern that you're trying to match may not be the case that you're expecting. So for example, when I do admissions for this class, sometimes I'm trying to track down particular users or particular email addresses or something like that. And I first make sure I change everything to lowercase so that I'm not, because I'm only caring about like the letters and characters. I'm not actually caring about whether things are uppercase or lowercase. Sometimes someone will send me a request for their credentials, for instance, and I have to look up their credentials and they give me their email address to look those up. But the email address I have on record may have different capitalization, even though this has no impact whatsoever on actual email. So you should have calculated a z-score for each practice. You need to perform your calculation in a way that lets you also return your z-score with the practice's name and the number of prescriptions it issued in the 2017 scripts data. If this is still unclear, please provide more specificity on what you're confused about. Because I'm not really sure why this is confusing. I've calculated 100 practices with the largest z-score using this code. So you have 100 z-scores. How can I return the result as a list of tuples in the form practice name, z-score, number of scripts? This seems very straightforward to me. You have a z-score for each practice. Give its practice name, the z-score, and the number of prescriptions that it prescribed. So I need a little bit more help from the student here in understanding what's not clear. Okay, so they have A is this max of whatever numeros is. They have this hard-coded number. Not great. I don't know what nombres is. And I know these words mean name and numbers, so. But these also aren't titles, right? So, or totals. First of all,